never interviewed anyone in my life, and I'm sat there deciding what to ask them and quickly Googling like what are the top 10 interview questions to ask while they're probably on the other end of their laptop Googling what are the top 10 interview questions. I guess just through an understanding of like you won't always get it right, but as long as you are open, I've found that they get that. They know that you're sort of learning as you go.
Welcome to Push to Be More with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. This is a show that talks about the stuff that makes life work. And to help us do just that, I am chatting with today's very special guest, Ross Hetherington from Snapify Marketing, about where he's had to push through, what he does to recharge his batteries and to be, as well as what he is doing to be more and where he sees the future going. Oh yes, it's going to be a great show, and the notes and this transcript from our conversation are going to be available on our website, pushtobemore.com. And whilst you're there, why not sign up for our newsletter? And each week we will email you the links from the show as well as the notes and the transcript automatically direct to your inbox, totally for free. So do check those out. Now, this episode is brought to you by Orion Media, which helps entrepreneurs and business leaders set up and run their own successful podcast. Ross, you know what? I have been running my own podcast and for many years. In fact, I've been doing podcasts for a long time, and I found them to be really, really rewarding. They open doors like nothing else I've seen. I've built networks, made friends, had a platform to champion my customers, my team. I've got some great suppliers as a result of interviewing them on podcasts. And I think just about any entrepreneur and business leader should have a podcast because it's had such a huge impact on my own business. Now, of course, that all sounds fantastic in theory, but in reality, there's the whole problem of setup, distribution, getting the tech right, knowing what the right podcast strategy is. I mean, the list goes on. You see, I love talking to people, but I'm not a big fan of all that other stuff. So Orion Media takes it off my plate. I do what I'm good at, hopefully, which is chatting to people, and they brilliantly take care of the rest. So if you're wondering if podcasting is a good marketing strategy for your business, and I think it probably is, do connect with them at orionmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. They will, of course, be linked on our website and in the show notes as well. But do check them out, orionmedia.com, if you're interested in that. Now, enough of that. Let's talk about Ross. Ross Hetherington is the founder and CEO of Snapify Marketing, which is a digital marketing agency here in sunny Liverpool that helps clients all over the world to sell more products, get more leads, and sell out events and find their audience online. Before setting off on his own adventures, Ross worked in a large agency helping clients dominate Google. Now he finds himself expecting his first child, building his first home office and cot, both of which I think are major DIY projects. And like me is an avid LFC fan, and like me is struggling with his LFC identity this season. It's great to have you on the show. Ross, welcome to the podcast. Great to finally get this conversation going. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Matt, and nice one for the intro, yeah. Apart from the LFC, but we won't go into that too much.
Now, it's fair to say you and I have been to Anfield and watched a game or two, and this season has not been a pleasant time. So you're right. I think we will, unless people are listening to the podcast going, oh, it's about time you Liverpool supporters had something to complain about.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going on Saturday, actually, so by the time this goes out, you might be able to delete that last section. We might be good again.
Yeah, if only that's what it took, right? Was just one or two days, and everything was okay. Just turn it around in a day. So tell me a little bit, Ross, about your journey into Snapify Marketing. I'm really curious as well with the name, right? Snapify. Why? Let's start there. Why Snapify?
Yeah, so basically it's a name that came from the fact that the first sort of thing we did, and when I say we, it was just me and my mum's spare room at that point. was Snapchat filters. So it's basically Snapchat marketing agency. And this was years ago. I don't know, it all blurs into one. 4 years ago, maybe. Snapchat was a lot different than it is now. But all of the under 25s were using it. Me included, so I was probably just over 25 at that point, just sneaking in. And that's still the case now, but it's in a very different space now. So we still do a little bit of Snapchat marketing, but back then it was different. So essentially what we used to do was for bars, clubs, nightclubs, restaurants, festivals, different businesses where people came to their premises. We used to run filters that only showed up within a sort of radius or geolocation. Graphic, sort of their logo, their branding on the graphic, so that, you know, when all these people were coming to their venue and taking a picture of the burger they were about to eat, which everyone still does, just not on Snapchat anymore. Before they sent it to their, 100 friends on Snapchat, there was the opportunity to apply the branded filter. And people really loved them. People really used them. We ended up working with some pretty big businesses, bigger than we would have done. I keep saying we, it was just me. Bigger than I would have been able to do if I was just a marketing agency at that time. But because I was a Snapchat marketing agency, and there was only 2 others in the UK and a couple in America who were really sort of focused on that at the time, we were able to have conversations with people I would have never had before. Wow. So that's essentially where it started. The name we've kept. I have toyed with changing it, but I quite like the story. Until Snapchat dies, I'll keep it, and then we'll see.
then we'll have a little think about it. So you niched down then quite. I mean, so Snapify Marketing, was this your first sort of soiree into your own business? Is that so? You leave the big agency doing the Google domination stuff, and you move into your mum's spare room. Love that story, by the way. Yeah. And that's where Snapify Marketing was what she did. She wanted you out.
Again. I'm back.
So this was your initial startup, right? This is where it all began, was in your mum's spare room.
Yeah, exactly. So take a step back to sort of what was happening at the agency I was working at. It was my first job in marketing. It was something that, when I saw the job adverts, I think it said pay per click advertising executive, I think was the job title, and I didn't have a clue what that meant at the time. I just matched the criteria and thought, it's marketing, so I want to try and get into marketing, let's go for it. Fortunately for me, part of the process was a test, and at that stage in my life I had very little interview experience. Anything like that stressed me out massively, but I was like, it's a test, so if I do well, I'll get the job. And I did. I was there for probably almost a year, and there was probably some push factors and some pull factors towards going solo. Which is interesting because it was my first job in the industry, so I didn't want to jump too soon. But I'd say the fact that the pull factor of spotting the opportunity on Snapchat that agency wasn't thinking about, never mind doing, and most agencies in the UK weren't doing, I'd say the combination of that and some other factors made me think, do you know what? If I don't do it now, I probably never will.
Yeah.
So that was sort of how it happened.
I find it interesting, isn't it? You saw this opportunity that very few people were taking advantage of, and you thought, okay, well, now I'm gonna have a go. And this thinking, if I don't do it now, I never will, is probably a very, very true truism. Do you know what I mean? I think the older you get, the more likely you are to talk yourself out of something. Although, I read an article the other day which said if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, you are much more likely to be a successful entrepreneur if you start in your 40s because you've got a little bit of life experience, which I thought was just a really interesting read, because I just expected most people just to be entrepreneurs in their 20s. But apparently quite a lot of people in their 40s start their own businesses and do quite well with them as well.
And there's the famous, you see it on LinkedIn once a week now, people copy and paste it, but like, was it the guy who started KFC was like 65 or something, and then there's a list of others that don't start till that age as well. So yeah, I definitely think there's some truth in that.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. Because I mean, this is not a marketing podcast, but I'm curious to pick your brains on it, as everyone listening to the podcast will want to know about marketing, and they'll be like, "Oh, Ross, okay, you know what you're talking about." So, if Snapify has changed, and we're no longer putting pictures of our burgers on Snapify, what social media channels should I be thinking about from a marketing point of view? I appreciate that's a very open-ended question, but I'll ask it anyway. Go for it.
Yeah, so a very open-ended question is going to get the answer that most people give at this stage, is it depends. It's the worst answer, but it's also the best answer, and it's so true. It depends on who you're trying to target. So, you know, if you're trying to target the under 25s, back in the day, it would have been Snapchat, when there was more accessible marketing opportunities on Snapchat. Now it's just really used for like DMs, basically. TikTok's obviously your place to go now. So if that's your audience, go to TikTok. If your audience is B2B, obviously go to LinkedIn. These are all things these are common sense things. These are the things that are going to come up on Google, but these are common sense for a reason. Like, I see so many people trying to be on every channel from day one, and it means that they spread themselves too thin. It means that they probably end up doing not a very good job of a lot of different channels, rather than just choosing one or two and doing a good job at those. Because especially when you're starting out, you haven't got time to, it's probably you doing it and you haven't got time to do them all. If you just focus on the main ones, then you can spread out to the other ones in future. But I think a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking, you know, to look legit, I need to be on everything. Now, the best example of this is ourselves. If people look up Snapify Marketing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they probably won't find a post from us for months, maybe a year.
Right.
And that always sounds mad saying that, because we run our clients' Facebooks, Instagrams, Twitters, that kind of stuff. But we get most of our work from LinkedIn. We're a very small team. So we focus our efforts on LinkedIn until we've sort of got to a stage where we think either LinkedIn's not working for us anymore, or we're doing all we can on LinkedIn. Then we'll have a look at the other channels, because I know that some business owners who are our target audience, and marketing directors, some, if not all, will be on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. But they're on there for different reasons, whereas they're also on LinkedIn for the reason why we want to be on LinkedIn to get business. They're on there for a reason. So yeah, I'd say focus is the key to that.
Yeah. And it's a very valid point. And again, not the reason necessarily we have you on the show. We're going to get into the whole push to be more stuff in a second. But I am aware, Ross, I have a small opportunity here to take advantage of it, because people that listen to this podcast will probably be on LinkedIn. It's the main thing, right? It's the business arena, the entrepreneurs, those in business want to know more about business, thinking about starting their own, but all that kind of genre. And so LinkedIn seems to be the place to be. And one of the things that I've noticed about you on LinkedIn is you're prolific. So you can put something on...
I've been called worse on LinkedIn.
Definitely had worse names. But do you know what I mean? When you put a post on LinkedIn, you get a lot of interaction, a lot of views, a lot of engagement going on. When I put a post on LinkedIn, there's like tumbleweed going across the screen. Now, granted, I probably do one post a year on LinkedIn. It's not been my platform of choice. But I imagine there's a lot of people listening to the show going, Matt, can you just please ask Ross for his top tips on how to do LinkedIn better? So what are maybe 2 or 3 things that I need to think about if I want to do LinkedIn better?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just before I go into the 2 or 3 top tips, I'd say it's definitely worth taking seriously now, because it is if you do it right, there is a big opportunity there. Now, over time, it might go the way of other platforms. So at the moment, I'm getting lots of reach and lots of engagement on my posts because I've been doing it for a while now, and it's a sort of hot platform right now. But people were getting that same interaction and reach on Facebook a few years ago, and now that's dwindled. So I'd say strike while the iron's hot is probably the main point to take from that. But don't put all your eggs in one basket, because one day they will take it away and get you to pay for it like Facebook did. And that's fine. That's just the nature of it. I'd say that a couple of things to focus on LinkedIn is something that I see a lot of people get wrong, or not get wrong, but prioritize wrong, is they'll spend a lot of time on their company profiles and their company pages. They're fine, they're good, they can work. I've seen some work really well, just the same way a company page can work well on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. But at the moment, the thing that works best is personal profiles. So similar to what I was saying there, like if you go back on Snapify Marketing's company page on LinkedIn, we probably haven't done a post on there for a while, because we use my profile. Like we've all got access to it. We all log into my profile. And we use that as the tool. Just because that's what works at the moment. It might not be the thing that works forever. And the other thing to bear in mind here is when you use a personal profile, you can choose who your audience is, and that's powerful in marketing. You can't really do that on the other platforms. You've got to hope that they follow you. LinkedIn personal profile, you can connect with the people you think will be interested in what you've got to say, will want to buy your product. If they accept the connection request, which is a big if, it depends what you're saying to them. But if they accept that request, your posts will then start to show up in their feed. Now, over the past couple of years, I've probably built it up to, I haven't checked for a while, but probably over 20,000 connections.
Wow.
All sort of organic, i.e. I've sent some connection requests out to people I consider to be my target audience. I also get connection requests in based off people seeing the post, and also people trying to sell stuff. Again, it's the nature of it, and that's fine. I don't mind that if it's a good fit. So I'd say the top tip in terms of connecting is try and be quite focused in terms of that. Don't worry about the numbers. The only reason I've been able to get up to those numbers is because my target audience is quite large in terms of business owners and sort of marketing decision makers who might need an agency. But if your product, if there's only sort of 2,000 people in the country or in the world who would likely buy your product, which is, it can happen. You know, we've got a client who's very, very specific in their target audience. Well, we help them build their profile. And we could connect with almost all of their target audience through LinkedIn without paying for ads or anything like that. So it is powerful at the moment. Taken away at some point as well.
No, totally. Well, some top tips there on LinkedIn. Get on it, get busy. Does it matter what you post?
So the main thing for any social content really, but LinkedIn especially at the moment, is provide value, educate, entertain. If you do those things, like write things that your audience are going to be interested in, not what you want to post about. Because I could open LinkedIn now and scroll through, and a lot of the things will be very self-centered. It's probably not the right way of putting it, but like the reason why they posted it was for their purposes or for their benefit. If you're trying to think of a post, think about what will either help or engage or interest, entertain the target audience. The more you understand your target audience, the easier it becomes. I think a lot of people probably don't understand their target audience very well because it's hard. If you aren't part of the target audience, you've got to put on a different hat, so to speak, and sort of become that target audience to try and get into their heads. How do they speak? What are they interested in? So there's quite a lot of tools you can use to help you with that. So yeah, I would say just try and think about them, or the target audience, with every post that you do.
Yeah.
And you can occasionally do a sort of salesy post, so to speak, but I think people get the ratio the wrong way around. Like, a lot of people might do 4 salesy posts for every one interesting or entertaining or
Yeah.
educational post, whereas, I mean, I take it to the extreme and probably too far, but like, I probably do 19 of those posts to one sales post. Every now and
Wow.
again I'll mention it,
Yeah.
just because that's our strategy and that works for us. It might be different in different industries, but we just know, like, our target audience are quite savvy in terms of marketer. Like, we're selling to marketers, and we are marketers, so they know what goes on.
Yeah.
And also, business owners are probably the most targeted demographic on LinkedIn. So they're getting messages constantly from people trying to sell software, recruitment agencies, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their feeds are full of stuff like that. So we just try and be a bit different. And I guess that's how we stand out. But also, I think part of it's that because we're quite small and it is my profile, and like, I founded the business, that we can be a bit more, not edgy, but a bit different. Whereas, bigger agencies where the person running their LinkedIn account, might not be able to be like that, or they're not allowing them to use their personal profile because they think, well, if that person's on LinkedIn, they're probably looking for a job or something.
Yeah.
That's where we've got an advantage over the bigger agencies, because
Yeah.
the people in their business, the actual marketers, the people who are delivering, they're the ones who have the most knowledge. They're the ones who should be posting, but the agencies and the businesses don't want them to do that, because if they ever leave, they take all that value with them.
That's very true, actually. Very true. It's a very fair point. Because it's your personal profile, so you're bound to take it with you, right? When you go, you're not building the company page.
Although I have heard some horror stories of people or businesses telling them that they can't take their personal profile with them.
Wow.
Don't know how that ended up legally, but it happens.
Wow, that's quite interesting. I'm definitely not in your league. I don't have 20,000 connections on LinkedIn. I think about 9,000 at the moment, and we've been targeting people in the e-commerce and digital industries for some of the e-commerce stuff we do, and that's been paying off well. One of the things that we tried the other day, which I'm getting into more and more, is LinkedIn events. They seem to be doing well, but let me just say this, quick plug to Snapify Marketing. If you want to know more about LinkedIn marketing, or you need some help with LinkedIn, connect with Ross, because I'm sure he would more than happily hear from you and help you. There you go. Set in my best DJ advertising voice that I could muster there.
Love it. Yeah, and if nothing else, you can just have a laugh at my posts for a bit.
I do. I love them. I think that's great. Now, it is fair to say, full disclosure, we do use Snapify Marketing. You are one of our suppliers. I am one of your clients. And we use you in our ecom businesses to help us with paid media. So I don't know if that helps you, listener, whether or not you think they're a good agency, but I like the guys, So let's talk then a little bit more about the Push to Be More stuff. So we call the show Push to Be More. And one of the things I'm really curious about, Ross, with guests that we have on the show, as well as what they do, is what are the areas of challenge? Where have you had to push? What are some of the big obstacles that you've had to overcome in your fairly short life so far? I mean, you're going to have some fairly big obstacles in the non too distant future. Building that cot will be one of them. But yeah, I mean, what are some of the big things that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, so I think there's probably two sides to that. There's the personal side and there's the business side. From a personal perspective, probably the biggest challenges I had were early on, in even before I started my career, like going through uni, coming out of uni, and not really knowing what direction I wanted to take. Not really, and from that, not knowing if everybody else's definition of success was what I wanted for my life. When you're in uni and 18 to 20, I you don't really know if you're just being difficult or different, or like you don't know at that point, do you? You haven't got any life experience. You don't really know what you're doing. You can only really take the advice of parents, teachers who, through their best efforts will try and help you, but may not have the necessary experience or skills in the industry you want to go into, or your skill set, or might just be driven differently. So I'd say the challenge there was to sort of work out it's okay to be not go the same route as everyone else, even though everything in society or the system or whatever you want to call it is suggesting everyone should do the same thing. So that I found that quite hard to sort of navigate early on, because, like you say, you don't know at the time if, like, in hindsight, I can look at it and go, oh, a normal job isn't the route for me, kind of thing. But when I was working, I had another job before my first marketing job, and I didn't love that either. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm a bad employee, or maybe it's just me. But you start to work out what your sort of, where your place is and where you can do well. So it was just the friction of wait until I had that sort of hindsight, going through that. So was probably the personal challenges.
How did you navigate that then? So you're at uni, you're trying jobs, you're not loving them. There is that friction there. There is that thought there. Is it me? What did you do to navigate that?
Yeah, so I think at the time I didn't really know what I was doing, but in hindsight, looking back, I tried quite a few different things, sort of tasted a few different things, so that the idea was to find something I liked, but it was more in reality finding the things that I didn't like. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It's not for everyone. And then eventually you sort of, it's a little less overwhelming. Then you start to narrow down into, okay, well, you don't like this, this, and this. You might have to try a few more things, and you might not like those, but eventually you'll come out with a narrower sort of focus. So I guess that's probably what I did. Whether I knew I was doing it at the time, I don't know.
It's funny, isn't it, listening to you talk, because I like this phrase. You said it's okay not to go the same route as everybody else, and what you're doing is you're perfectly describing everything that your newborn baby will do when they try to learn a walk, right? It's not so much figuring out how to stay up, it's learning what doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? And what doesn't work for them. And as an entrepreneur, one of the things you've got to be okay with is failure, right? Yeah. So you try something, it doesn't work. Okay, well, as long as I learn from that, I'm good to go, and pivot to the next thing. So did you eventually get to the stage and point in life where you were okay when things didn't work out? Because I think this is the crux for a lot of people. It's like when things don't constantly work out, or it feels like there's consistency in failure, for want of a better expression, people have a really hard time with that. And so I'm curious to know how you were. Yeah,
so I struggled with that all the way up until I went self-employed. And then ever since that point, I've been fine with it. And I think the main thing there is I felt like I didn't have control when I'm in a job, for example, in previous jobs I've been in. Whereas if I fail now, it's on me, that's fine. But if I win now, that's also on me. And that was quite sort of liberating in a way. And it's weird, really, because I'd probably, like, I've been running a marketing agency for 4 years or whatever it is now. I'd probably struggle more still. Put me in an entry-level marketing executive role today, and I'd struggle more with that than running an agency.
That's interesting.
And it's the control element, I think. It's like, I'm comfortable with failure, but when other people are involved, that was where I couldn't sort of get my head around it.
That's really interesting. So that's the biggest.
That's a common thing with sort of people some people are more suited to being in control of their own sort of destiny or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think you're right. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they like the idea of in effect charting their own course, being masters of their own destiny, whatever phrase you want to use. I think as you get older as an entrepreneur, so my experience is actually you realize that control is somewhat elusive and somewhat illusory. Actually, it's not really there. But I mean, I like you. I think I remember some of my early job interviews, and people saying to me, they're like, Matt, we think you'd, from a skills point of view, we think you'd be great, but from an employment point of view, we think you'd be a nightmare because it sounds like you just need to be working for yourself. And I remember one or two interviews like that where the person interviewed me said, why don't you just go work for yourself? And I'm like, I just think I need to go get a job. Surely that's what I need to do. Yeah. And like you, I kind of went through this, well, actually, no, that's not what I need to do. Maybe I do need to go get a job and listen to these people.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like I've since been on the other side of the table hiring, and there's only 4 of us, and I knew most of the people we've hired, but like we have been in a position where we've sort of gone through an interview process and we've been on the other side, and it's so interesting to see the flip side of that as well. Yeah. And I'd say that probably is when I said that, personal and business challenges from a business perspective, that sort of being a freelancer, having too much work, so becoming an agency, then being the accidental sort of manager or leader. Yeah. I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge in terms of the business side of things. It's often the case in careers as well. Like the best salespeople become the sales manager, or the best marketers become the marketing directors. But the skills that got them there are completely different to the skills you need managing people or hiring or all of that. So yeah, that's probably the most challenging side I've found from a business perspective.
So have you dealt with that that sort of move to self-leadership to leading a team?
Yeah, so it's been difficult, but it's been a constant reminder of like you won't get everything right. Like we were saying before, like failure is part of the process, but you learn from those. So, I'd never interviewed anyone in my life, and I'm sat there deciding what to ask them and quickly Googling like what are the top 10 interview questions to ask, while they're probably on the other end of their laptop Googling what are the top 10 interview questions
that I'll be asked, and what are the answers.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess just through an understanding of like you won't always get it right, but as long as you are open, I found that they get that. They know that you're sort of learning as you go, and we're only a small agency, so that the things that you see in an agency with 4 people are warts and all. Like they see it all. They've got access to, like I said, my personal LinkedIn profile. They've got access to everything because it's just you are a big cog in a small machine. Whereas, when I worked in a big agency myself in the past, you're a small cog in a big machine there, and slightly different. So I think they do understand you're trying, and as long as you're sort of aligned in terms of not culture, well, it probably is culture, but I don't really like the word, but like aligned in terms of purpose or reason why you're doing things, as long as you can sort of communicate why, the sort of details don't really matter too much. Like you might fall out for a couple of hours, but you'll soon remember why everyone's doing that.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. So have you had any how can I call them significant learnings where staff are concerned? Because I mean, I look back over my career and I can't remember how many people I've hired over the years, how many people I've interviewed, how many people. I mean, fortunately, I can count on one hand really how many people I've had to have a conversation with and say, "Yep, sorry, you're no longer working here." But yeah, it's just any sort of thing that sort of springs to mind in your short career so far.
Yeah, I'd say like fortunately I've not had to have any conversations like that. But what I would say, like the sort of biggest learning I've had so far is it attitude over aptitude? that you can have the best CV, the best track record, the best experience in the world, but some people with no experience could be a better hire because they're keen, they're engaged, they just want to learn, they're just super, super keen, and that's sort of what I was when I first went into agency world. I didn't know what the job was, didn't know what the job title meant. I didn't have any experience. I had a degree, which was like they asked for it, but definitely didn't need it. But like I was just interested. I wanted to know why things work like that.
Yeah.
Like you said before, I was probably a really annoying employee to have because sometimes the manager doesn't want you to be asking why do that?
Yeah.
Why are we doing it like that? Shouldn't we do it this way? And in some jobs, you stick out in a bad way, like for being like that. But in some, like in my experience, they're the best types of people. The people who are constantly questioning why, in a good way.
Yeah, totally. And I think as a leader, actually, you it's one of the questions you ask a lot is why did we do it like that? Why can't we do it like this? Always pushing the boundaries, as it were. So do you want to become a big agency? Or are you quite happy to stay more speedboat size rather than cruise liner size? I mean, what's the aim for you?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and it's timely as well because it's January, and this is when you think about these things for a bit until everything goes to chaos again. But I'm very conscious that I don't want to build the thing or recreate the things that I didn't like in my previous job, which was a good job, by the way. I was lucky to get it, and like I learned a lot, but it was a different monster. It was, through just the nature of the beast. There's a lot of people in between the client and the work getting done, and all those layers quite often meant that the outcome was worse for the client, but they were paying more for it because they needed to pay for their office and their account managers and their sales team and their this, that, and the other. Now, that's not to say there's a right or wrong way of doing it because they were playing a different game. They were going for big growth and they were going for the exit, and they did get it a few years ago, so fair play to them. And they achieved their goals, their version of success. But I know that that's not mine. I've been very conscious that I wanted to create a job that I liked. So I didn't like my jobs in the past. So my sort of goal was to create some people call it a lifestyle business. I don't really like that because it sounds a bit too chilled. It still can be stressful, but like a job which I enjoy and I would happily go through the stresses and the failures because the greater good or whatever, it's more enjoyable. So I'm quite conscious that although I do want to grow and I am ambitious in that way, I don't have any ambitions to grow beyond a certain level. Because I think people just want more by default. That's just their default setting. More is better. And I mean, I'm still only young, but I reckon I've already sort of cracked that. I don't think it is. In my personal experience anyway. More is often more stress, more problems, more issues, and unless you've got a North Star to make those worthwhile, i.e. selling your business or whatever you want to do, I don't think more is always better. So for me, I think build the team out, a few more people, maybe like a couple of experts in each area of marketing. We've got a couple of PPC, Google Ads experts now. That's our bread and butter still. But maybe a couple of like sort of one more social like marketing, LinkedIn-y content type expert, maybe one web developer, something like that, where we've got a couple of really good, cool people, interesting people, really good at what they do. We can take on a certain amount of work, but beyond that, I don't think it would be what I personally would enjoy.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm listening to you talk, and if I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but I'm sure there are people listening of a certain age that are kind of thinking, what he's talking about is the Jerry Maguire approach to business. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
With Tom Cruise, the human head weighs 8 pounds, or whatever it was. It was it's very much that less is more. So less clients, better service, etc., is probably a more healthier way to do business, rather than going for more. And ironically, I in some ways, Ross, I agree that the more you try and chase, the less you end up having, or the more you try and chase more, the less you end up having. It's quite an odd thing, really. So all this is going on, right? And like I said, I mean, you've got your business, it's growing, you've got some really great clients, and then there's me. And you've got this growing team. You've got a sort of an idea of where you want to go. Life's good. Your first baby is on the way. You've got to build the cot. And how do you stay in the zone then? What do you do to sort of recharge your batteries with all this going on? Because it's quite a lot to carry. I think it's a lot of responsibility to carry. And so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a few different things I would say that come to mind. One of them being football. It used to be my release in terms of going to the match. Less so now. Like, I still do go, but I'd say it's not as big a part of my life anymore for multiple reasons. I think often that happens as you grow older.
Sorry, when you let me just clarify. If you're listening outside of England, going to the match means going to watch Liverpool play football at Anfield, right? That's what you're talking about. And so every week or every 2 weeks, depending on the schedule, you would go down to watch the games, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I still do go, but it's just not as important to me for multiple reasons anymore. So but I would say I enjoy it more. Although we're rubbish at the moment, it doesn't bother me as much anymore if they lose, which is probably healthy. So I'd say that's one thing I do as a sort of release. But more so now is playing football, which is like the physical release is sort of second to none for me. If I don't play football a couple of times a week, I can feel it in the office. Like I can tell there's just sort of a pent up energy that I haven't been able to get rid of. So yeah, I'd say that's a big one. And then in terms of other stuff, I'm an introvert, which I've learned a lot about since I found out I was an introvert. People just like, when you're a kid, they just say, oh, he's shy or whatever. And one of our mutual friends, Andy Kemp, was actually one of the guys who sort of helped me understand who I was and where I get my energy from. And over time, I've learned that, I often need space to recharge. So if I'm on a podcast or if I'm on back-to-back client calls for 4 hours, in the past I would have sort of just carried on working after that and struggled. It would have been difficult, but now I understand that I just need a bit of time away from it all just to sort of recharge, especially because the job can be draining. We've got about 14 clients at the moment, so that's potentially 14 different people who could contact me at the same time. It does not always happen that way, but as an introvert, that's very draining, even just knowing that. So it's just things where I can get away with different things that I can, even if it's just for like 20 minutes, half an hour, that can just sort of refresh my focus. So stuff like having a walk around the block or around the park, meditating to an extent, but I do like 101. I wouldn't even call it meditation. Like I'll do the basic breathing ones, or the one where they just talk you through, like if you're walking and they'll just talk you through it kind of thing. I do find that does help. And stuff like that. I've been reading a lot more recently as well.
Okay.
Not like some businessy stuff. Like I try and mix it up though with some just stuff that has got nothing to do with work. Just
Yeah.
whether it's fiction or a autobiography or something where
Yeah.
it could be pretty mindless book, but it just the process of reading helps me sort of switch off.
Yeah.
And then I'd say the final thing is people probably call it journaling, but it's just for me, it's just writing down what's in my head. Writing down stuff closes the loop for me. So it's not all just swirling around in there. The
Yeah.
fact that it's on paper and I will revisit and turn it into a task in my to-do list if it needs to or whatever. It just sort of closes the loop and gives me a little bit more headspace. So yeah, there's a few.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you talk, and I get the journaling, I get the writing stuff down, because your brain has to take something which realistically is probably quite fuzzy in your head. It's quite undefined, and it has to be able to define it enough to write it down. And just that very act alone, I think, helps clarify a lot of stuff.
Definitely.
I remember, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen for you, Ross, but I remember when before we had Josh, which is our first child, I would come back from work, and I'm actually quite extroverted. I like to be around people, but I had a sales job, and you'd spend all day talking to people, and I just needed space. I just needed not to talk to anybody. And so I had this agreement with my wife that when I came home from work, she would just leave me alone for like 30, 45 minutes, an hour maybe. And this was pre-YouTube. Do you know what I mean? This is how far back I'm going, 21 years now. And so I would just sit down, I'd read a novel, or I'd read the paper, or something would happen, and you just got that space, and you came out of the room 45 minutes, an hour later, and you're like, right, I'm back. How are you, babe? Do you know what I mean? And you'd have those sort of conversations, and and I remember those being wonderful times. And I remember as soon as Josh was born, I'd walk through the door after work, and yeah, that everything changed at that point. And Sharon just went, "It's your turn."
Yeah, I'm very conscious that that's going to be the new reality for me, and I can't go and have a bath for 2 hours if I feel stressed, or go for a walk. But listen, this is what we choose to do.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you just find different ways. Do you know what I mean? You just find
Exactly.
different ways of figuring it out. So, what's next then for you? Where's more?
Yeah, so I think I probably touched on it. Growing the team out slightly in terms of like maybe our core focus now is predominantly paid advertising and a little bit of content, i.e. we run people's LinkedIn profiles for them. We run some social media profiles for people, that kind of thing. In terms of like what else, I would say one of our main focuses is to remind ourselves of the quality over quantity sort of rule, which you alluded to before, whereby we've started to be involved in conversations with bigger clients now, just through experience, through having case studies. We worked with massive businesses in the previous agency, but like you got to be able to back up yourself, and we're able to do that more so now with like case studies and similar. Well, we worked with a business in a similar industry, and you get through more doors. So I'd say sort of taking that next step to being involved in those conversations a little bit more, which we have started to be. Like we've been in some, say, pitches, but like we've done proposals for businesses which we would never have been able to sort of be considered for a few years ago. So that's great. Logistically, I'd say I'd probably like to expand a little bit outside of the UK more. So we've got obviously one of your businesses which sells across the world, but we've also got a couple of clients in Dubai. We've had a couple of clients in America. Mainly for spread and risk. Like if the UK goes into recession, do you want all your clients to be based there? But also because I just feel like the reason why I do this is to do interesting and exciting things, and that to me is quite interesting and exciting, testing yourself in different markets. So yeah, I'd say that, and then maybe one day having a little go ourselves at whether it's our own e-com shop or whether it's our own lead generation website, because we spend our whole week doing these things for clients. We've got all of the skills, we've got all of the knowledge, apart from all the other bits that we don't have, like supply issues and stuff like that, if it was econ. But we've got a lot of the things that you'd need. And it's just, I think when we spot that opportunity, we'll know it. There's been a few in the past where we've been like, oh, is it this? And the fact that I was asking that made me think it's probably not. I think it'll be obvious to us based on our sort of experience working with so many clients over the years when that does pop up. So those are the main things. And then a couple of other bits on our radar. I want to try and stop relying on LinkedIn as much for our sort of work, which is how the conversation started. But like, how can I translate that audience into something that we own, whether that's a newsletter or maybe a podcast? Well, I don't know about that.
You'd be great at a podcast. No, you'd be great. You'd be great. It's interesting. I mean, we've called this podcast Doing Interesting and Exciting Things with Cool People. And listening to you talk about growing international customer base, growing, different types of clientele and stuff like that. Even the new family, and doing very interesting things there with cool people, i.e. your partner, is it's an interesting sort of motto, isn't it? And I love international clients. We have clients in New Zealand, we have clients in the States, we have clients all over, and I love it because it's a great excuse to jump on a plane and go see the world and travel and see them, which I also love doing. So no, that's great. Ross, let me tell you, because time is upon us, I need to get to the question box. State-of-the-art graphics there on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Nice, no expense has been spared. You know the rules, say stop, and we will ask that question.
Stop.
Always getting closer towards the end. Now, I want you to know you said stop at this point. Okay. So this is not on me. Would you be happy to tell your friends how much you earn?
Yeah, probably more so than I think it's more socially acceptable now. A couple of my mates work for HMRC, so I have to tell them how much I earn also.
HMRC, outside the UK, just so you know, HMRC is Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. In other words, it's the tax office. So you have to tell them how much you earn. I love that. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more accepted now. I don't think people in the workplace, I think it'd probably be more difficult because there's competition there, isn't there? There's oh, well, if they're earning that, then I should be earning that. And it's a very nuanced conversation these days, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Whereas because I'm self-employed, it probably wouldn't bother me that much, but I'm not necessarily driven by money. So it's not even like the main thing for me. The main thing is like, do I enjoy what I do? Like I've got mates who've got really high paid jobs or had really high paid jobs and didn't have any spare time in the evenings, didn't have any spare time on the weekends. They weren't seeing their family, that kind of thing. They were earning a lot of money, but I'd rather enjoy the journey, to be fair. So yeah, the money, I'd probably tell them because it doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah. No, I think I'm the same. It's an interesting question. There are a couple of friends that I have where actually I've said to my friends, listen, at any point in time, you can ask me and I will show you my bank statements. So not only do you see how much money I'm having coming in, but where I'm spending that money, just to hold myself accountable, because I never wanted to be that guy that flaunted wealth. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying I never wanted to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And so there's a couple of friends who I've said that to, and I'm just like, anytime you want, man, just let me know. I'll send you the bank statements. So you can ask me about any expenditure I have on the bank statements. And that, you know what? I don't know whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, but man, alive, has that held me to account on what I do with money? Because like you, I don't think money buys happiness. I don't think the more I have, the happier I'm going to be. But I think what I do with my money makes a real difference, both to me and the world. So I really wanted to be accountable in that. So interesting question. I do love the question box. The question box has thrown up some great questions recently. So, Ross.
I was a bit nervous about that one.
I think you got off lightly, if I'm honest with you. Yeah. So, as you know, this show is sponsored by Aurea Media, which specializes in helping folks like your good self set up and run their own podcast. So, going back to the podcast conversation, let's assume that you did set up a podcast. Out of the people that have impacted your life, who would be on your guest list and why?
That's a good question. You? Is that the answer you wanted?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so I guess over the past few years especially, I've built up, people call it their network. I think LinkedIn's probably ruined that phrase, because now, your LinkedIn network is very different from your real network, isn't it? I see those two different things for most people. Some people do keep their LinkedIn quite close, but so your real network are the people who've helped you along the way, and the people who you've admired along the way, the people who've probably done what you're trying to do before they've trodden the path, or whatever the saying is. So yeah, the likes of yourself, Andy Kent, I mentioned before, has helped me out a lot over the years. So Andy owns Angel Solutions, which is a bigger business than I'd ever want to grow, but I've learned a lot from him over the time, and not just from a business perspective, but from he gave me a lot of time. He didn't need to. I was nothing to do with what he's trying to achieve in business. So yeah, people I've learned from along the way, I would say.
Yeah, very good. Now, Andy's a top bloke, isn't he? He's great at helping. He'd give you the shirt off your back, really, and he's just such a generous guy. So I'm not surprised, actually. You mentioned Andy Kent in that phrase. So
him and Jürgen Klopp, and that's it.
Jürgen Klopp. If Jürgen, you're listening, I would love to interview you on this podcast as well. So
I asked first. It was my idea.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. You don't actually have a podcast yet, right?
Not yet.
Brilliant. One of the things that we do actually is we reach out to potential guests on LinkedIn. We do connect with them, but there is something about getting them on the podcast and having a conversation which really transforms that relationship, like you say. So, I get what you mean about the LinkedIn networking thing. So, Ross, thank you so much for joining us, man, on the podcast. It's been an absolute treat. I appreciate we've probably overran slightly, but it's been a fun conversation. So thank you for joining me. You are, sir, a legend. Well, no.
You too.
You're a legend. You're a legend. Now, we will, of course, link to... Oh, no, what? Before I get into the outro, how do people reach you? How do they connect with you if they want to? I know we mentioned it earlier, but let's do that again.
Yeah, I think people might have guessed, but at the moment, the best thing to do is get me on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request. You can let me know why you've connected if you want. It's optional. But yeah, I'd say that's the best place to get me. That's where we put out all our content currently, in terms of interesting conversations going on in marketing, interesting things that we're spotting, new things that we're seeing, and a few jokes along the way. And you can also just see some of the random comments that I get on a lot of my posts, where you see a different side to LinkedIn.
Yeah. If that doesn't entice you, nothing will. So yeah, connect with Ross on LinkedIn. What do they search for on LinkedIn to find you, bud?
Just Ross Hetherington. I imagine there's only a few. In fact, to my knowledge, there are a few, but the top two should be myself and the CEO of Make-A-Wish Foundation, who makes me look very bad.
Make sure you connect with the right one.
Ross Hetherington.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. Reach out to Ross on LinkedIn. We will, of course, link to him in the show notes as well, which you, if you're subscribed to the email newsletter, you'll be getting for free. If you're not subscribed, head over to pushtobemore.com and sign up to the newsletter, and we'll make sure we start to send these things out to you. So there you go. Another fantastic conversation. Huge thanks again to Ross for joining me today. Also, a massive shout out to today's show sponsor, Orion Media. If you are wondering if podcasting is a good marketing strategy for your business, do connect with them at aurionmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. And as I said, they will be linked in the show notes as well. Be sure to follow the Push to Be More podcast wherever you get your podcast from, because we've got some more great conversations lined up, and I don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one has told you yet today, you are awesome. Yes, you are. It's just a burden you have to bear. Ross has to bear it. I have to bear it. You've got to bear it too. Yes, created to be awesome. Push to Be More is produced by Orion Media. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is Sadaf Bainon, Josh Catchpole, Estella Robin, and Tim Johnson. Our theme music was written by Josh Edmondson. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to read the transcript or show notes, head over to the website pushtobemore.com, where you can also sign up, as it happens, to the weekly newsletter and get all of this good stuff direct to your inbox for free. That's it from me. That's it from Ross. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week. See you next time. Bye for now.